Hello, this is the walkthrough for the Higher Homework Year 11 Homework Higher 3. And it starts off with a real stinker of a question. So I've got a little rectangle that's L by W, and then my big rectangle is made up of little rectangles, 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, and 5 there. So the width of my big rectangle is 5W, and the height of my big rectangle, there's an L and an L and 2 W's, and I know the area. I'm given the area, so the area of this big rectangle, so it's 5W times by 2W plus 2L is 38.4. Now I'm just going to simplify this and then we'll think about the small rectangle. So if I expand this out, I get 10W squared plus 10WL equals 38.4. My little rectangle, well, I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 16 little rectangles in the big one. So 38.4 divided by 16, I've got a calculator somewhere, here it is. 38.4 divided by 16 is 2.4. So each little rectangle is 2.4. So I can say L times W, LW is 2.4. Okay, so I've got two equations. I've got two unknowns. I must be able to solve them simultaneously. I'll write them out again. 38.4. We'll call that equation number 1. LW equals 2.4. Let's call him imaginatively equation number 2. From equation number 2, I can divide by W, and that will make L the subject. So equation number 2, L equals 2.4 divided by W, and that means that in equation number 1, where it says L, I can replace it with 2.4 over W. So we'll do that, call that equation number 3, substitute equation number 3 into equation number 1, I get 10W squared plus 10W, L is 2.4 divided by W, and that equals 38.4. Let's simplify. 10W squared plus, now look, I've divided by W and then times by W, so those W's cancel each other out. So it's 10 times 2.4, that's 24, equals 38.4. That means that 10W squared, 24 off of both sides, 14.4. So divide both sides by 10, W squared is 1.44. And W is the square root of 1.44. Square root of 1.44, 1.2. That is a horrible, horrible question, but that's how you do it. If I've got two things to find, or if there are two unknowns, I need two equations. Number 2. Now, if I teach you, you'll be all over this. We've done this recently. The ratio of number of boys to girls at a party is 3 to 4. That doesn't mean there's 3 boys and 4 girls. It means if it could be 6 and 8, or 9 and 12. It could be any multiple of 3 to 4. So actually, I'm going to write it as 3x to 4x. 6 boys leave the party, so 3x minus 6. The girls hasn't changed, so that stays at 4x. So 6 boys leave the party. The ratio of the number of boys to girls at the party is now 5 to 8. Now the big learning point here is we can write ratios as fractions, so I'm going to do that. I've made an equation. I multiply both sides by 8, I multiply both sides by 4x, and I get 8 times 3x minus 6 equals 5 times 4x. You might want to remind yourself about fractions that this is correct, but remember, when I multiply a fraction by a number, I just multiply the numerator. Expand that bracket, 24x minus 48 equals 20x. Now it's a straightforward linear equation. Take 20x off of both sides, add 48 to both sides, x must equal 12. That's not the final answer though. Work out the number of girls. The number of girls is 4x, so 48 girls is my final answer. Got through it so far without anyone coming and interrupting. Let's see if it lasts. Here we go. A container is a hemisphere of radius 30 centimeters. Does it take less than a quarter of an hour to fill? Okay, I'm given that the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. That's the volume of a sphere. The volume of a hemisphere, that means half a sphere, is half of that. Radius is 30, which means the volume of my hemisphere is 4/3 times pi times 30 cubed, all divided by 2. Let's do that. 4/3 times pi times 30 cubed, all divided by 2. That's 18,000 pi. So that's how long, that's the volume of the hemisphere, and I want to know, that's in centimetres cubed, and I want to know, does it take more or less than 15 minutes? So I'm going to use my calculator and say, well, how many lots of 4,000 goes into 18,000 pi? 18,000 pi divided by 4,000, that will tell me how many minutes it takes to fill. So divide that by 4,000. 14.1 minutes, 14.14 minutes to 2 dp, and the question is, does it take less than quarter of an hour? So I need to say yes or no, and of course 40 minutes is less than quarter of an hour. Right, start again. Question 4. The nearest half metre threw me a bit. If you think about it, if it's 30 metres to the nearest metre, then my upper bounds would be halfway between, but this is 30 metres to nearest half metre, so my upper and lower bounds are halfway between the half metre marks. So 30 metres, the upper bound is 30.25 metres and the lower bound is 29.75 metres. That makes this not a nice question. A piece of length 5.8 metres, well, I'm going to call that 580 centimetres. Correct to the nearest 10 centimetres, so my upper bound is 585 and 575, and of course if we turn it back into metres, 5.85 and 5.75 metres. So I've got the upper bound for the length and the upper bound for the piece, upper and lower bounds for the piece. Work out the maximum possible length of ribbon left on the roll. So I want to start with as much as I can and take away as little as possible. So what's left is 30.25, that's as much as I'm allowed to start with, and I want to cut off a small amount as possible, 5.75. 30.25 minus 5.75, 24.5 metres. That wanted a bit of thinking about. Right, I can barely see the diagram on this one. Let's make it a bit bigger. I think that says X there. That's 20 centimetres, A, B, That says 35 degrees. C. Right angle triangle. 40. Oh, goodness me. I'm going to say that says 48 degrees. 10 centimeters. And that's it. Okay, I need this angle. I can't solve this triangle CAB directly because I've only got one side and one angle. If I had this side, I could use the sine rule. I can get this side using triangle ACD. So to get side length AC, I'm going to do trigonometry. And I know it's trigonometry because there's angles involved. So it's trigonometry. And it's a right angle trigonometry, so SOHWK applies here. AC is my opposite side. I've got my adjacent side, so I'm going to use tan. So tan of 48 equals opposite over adjacent. So AC is 10 times by tan of 48 degrees. And I'm just going to leave that like that because I'm going to use my calculator, and that's as accurate as I can get. In triangle ABC, it's not a right angle triangle, so SOHWK doesn't apply. So I'm going to use the sine rule here to say sine x over 10 tan 48 equals sine 35 over 20. Multiply both sides by 10 tan 48. Sine 35 over 20 times by 10 tan 48. And then of course to undo the sign, to get x on its own, I'll just do inverse sine. So I'll write that out, type it in, done. 10 tan 48. Definitely a calculator question is this. So here we go, inverse sine of sine 35 over 20 times by 10 tan 48. Does it say? No. 18.57 degrees to 2dp. Doesn't say, so 2dp or 3SF every time. Number 6. Rationalise the denominator. That means make the denominator a non-surd. Times top and bottom by root 2 over 2, because of course you can multiply top and bottom by the same thing, that doesn't change the value of the fraction. Rationalised, it does say simplify. I can divide top and bottom by 2, so 8 root 2, and I'm not going to bother writing over 1. That was A. B, 5 minus root 3 squared. Well, that doesn't mean 5 squared and root 3 squared, it means 5 minus root 3 multiplied by 5 minus root 3. Big fan of grids for multiplication. 5 minus root 3, 5 minus root 3, 25 minus 5 root 3 minus 5 root 3 again. Minus times minus is positive, and root 3 times root 3 is 3. So I've got 28 minus 5 root 3 minus another 5 root 3, that's minus 10 root 3. Give your answer in the form A minus B root 3. I have done. That just means make your answer look like this, and that's done that. Okay, so £600 times by 1.03. Now she does that for a year. Then she takes away £200 and then leaves that, and that attracts 3% interest. I'm just going to type that in then. 600 times 1.03, take away 200, and then times that by 1.03. 43054. Done. I'm going to use the same piece of paper, I know. Y equals 5x minus 3 Parallel to that means the same gradient, so it's going to be y equals 5x plus something, and I know it passes through minus 2 and minus 4, so I'm going to use minus 2 as my x and minus 4 as my y, because in coordinates the first is the x, the second is the y. So minus 4, 5 times minus 2 is minus 10, so c must be 6. That means my equation is y equals 5x plus 6. I'm going to do 9 on the same paper as well. Get me. Okay, the best estimate is after the highest number of throws. So I get my best estimate after the highest number of throws, so it's 0.3. So I would circle 0.3. I can just about squeeze this one on so you can see it on the screen. Quadratic formula needs memorising. Here it is, minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And in this case, a is 2, b is minus 5, c is minus 4, so I'll just put it into this. What? Hang on a minute, I'm going to pause it. Miss needs the phone. Okay, I'm back. So, quadratic formula. I've written down what a, b and c are. Just sub in. So, x equals minus 5. That's 5. Plus or minus square root of b squared. Minus 5 squared is 25. Minus 4 times a times c. All over 2a. That's 4. And I'm just typing that in. I'll do it with a plus and then I'll do it with a minus, and I'll just write my answers down. 5 plus the square root of 25 minus 4 minus 4 all over 4. 2 decimal places, 3.14. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? It's almost pi. Change the plus to a minus. Minus 0.64. Minus 0.64 to 2 decimal places as requested. Now, because it says use the quadratic formula, even though I've got a calculator that will do my quadratics for me, I need to show that I've used the quadratic formula. I can of course use my calculator to check. 3.14 minus 0.64. But because it says use the formula, I have to get marks, I have to show that I've used the formula. Number 11. M is directly proportional to, equals k times, that means directly proportional to, the cube of h. M is 1600 when h is 8. So all I've done is remembered what directly proportional means, and then put my numbers in. Work out an equation connecting m and h. That means work out the value for k and then write my equation with that value of k. Well, I can do that, divide both sides by 8 cubed. Normal mode, 1600 divided by 8 cubes is 3.125. That means that m is 3.125 multiplied by h cubed. That's part A done. Part B, height is 12, means that the mass is 3.125 times by 12 cubed, times that by 12 cubed, 5,400 grams, because it says grams at the top. And here we are, last one. Wow. It's been emotional. Here we go. 2 identical quarter circles are cut from a rectangle as shown. So I've got my rectangle. Quarter circle. That's not a bad drawing, is it? Of course, that's the radius of my circle. and not forgetting that that's also the radius of my circle. I also know, since my height is 12, I know that my radius must be 6 because it does say identical quarter circles. So this 12 must be split equally. So if this is 6, then this radius here is 6. So the area of the rectangle must be 12 times 6. 72 centimeters squared. The area of the quarter circle is a quarter of pi r squared. So that's a quarter of pi times by 6 squared. Quarter of 36 is 9, so 9 pi. There's two of them. That's 9 pi, and that's 9 pi. So two lots of them is 18 pi. So the shaded area is the whole rectangle, take away 18 pi. Now if this was a non-calculator question, I'd leave it like that. If it was a calculator question, I'd type that in and give it to 2 decimal places. 15.45. 15.45. And everything's in centimetres, so it's centimetres squared. That's it. Done. Hope you liked it.